which brings us to public comments. We have quite a few speakers here with us today, so I want to make a couple of points. Because of the number of speakers, we're going to limit each person that speaks to 2 minutes. We're balancing wanting to hear from you with the ability to get our work done. So it's going to be, because of the size of this number of speakers, 2 minutes each. Geraldine Jimenez, will you identify yourself, please? Could you just stand up? Thanks, Geraldine. So items that are not agendized, number one, we thank you for being here, members of the public that are here. Your issues are important to all of us. I think some of the people that are here today, the leaderships in your organization have probably spoken to everybody around this dais. We know what your issues are. We know what your concerns are. We care about your issues and your concerns. To the extent that we can help find resolution, we're asking our staff to work with your teams and others, our partners, to find resolution. We will not be engaging in questions and answers with you on items that you bring before us that are not on our agenda. Don't take that as our silence, meaning we don't care. We will not be engaging in any dialogue. I'm asking our staff not to as well. I've asked Geraldine to identify herself. She has a team. We have a full team of people that work with our external groups. For the purposes of this meeting, I would ask that make sure if you have the need to contact our staff person, Geraldine is here. You'll be able to exchange contact information. I'm asking our staff to follow up with the board to keep us fully informed as to the progress that's being made on the issues that you bring before us. So please do not take our lack of questions or engaging in dialogue on items that are not on our agenda as anything other than us running a process here and adhering to what we think is the appropriate way that a public meeting needs to be run. Work through our staff. They will appropriately keep us up to date on the issues that you bring before us. I can assure you we are all sensitive to the issues that you're going to bring to us. Those of you that are going to speak to us today on private prisons from AFT and CTA, you heard our CIO say that he will be initiating our process that we have in place. And I'm going to ask Chris to bring back to us an update in September on the progress that's being made on the issues around private prisons. So with that, we'll open that up to public comments, 2 minutes each, please. Anand Singh. Anand, let me just read the name. So it's Anand, Mitra, Nalinda, and Barbara. If you could line up there, that'd be great. 2 minutes each. Welcome.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, my name is Anand Singh. I'm the president of Unite Here Local 2, and I represented Local 2 over the last several months in talks with CBRE in an attempt to reach a labor peace agreement at the Pullman Hotel. I'm here today because I believe that we were then, and we are today, very close to reaching an agreement with CBRE to resolve the labor dispute at the Pullman. Our goal as a union here today is to bring the parties back to the table and to settle this dispute once and for all. I want to start by thanking you, the CalSTRS staff and the trustees, for all the hours that you spent trying to bring the parties together to settle this dispute. And your efforts have been essential to getting us to where we are, which is 99% of the way there. I appreciate you base your efforts on ESG principles and practices of investment, which are consistent with your own fiduciary interests as custodians of the teachers' pensions. I know it's difficult and challenging work, but it's appreciated. And as a Californian, as a labor leader, I just want to say that the investment principles that you're pioneering, that CalSTRS is pioneering, are really affect us all, and we really do appreciate that. So this is where we are. Back in May, Local 2 reached a tentative agreement with CBRE at the Pullman. The union agreed to stand down in anticipation of a settlement. The workers stopped protesting outside the hotel. CBRE agreed on a legal democratic process for workers to choose whether or not to join the union. The agreement was drafted. The union and CBRE were prepared to sign. We all thought we were done. Then at the last minute, the hotel operator, HEI, raised objections. I want to be clear. The union's demand for labor peace is at the Pullman Hotel only. I know this has been the subject of discussion. The union is not currently demanding labor peace at a second HEI property as part of this agreement. If the union's alleged demand for a second hotel is what's standing in the way, we can settle this right here and right now. The real disagreement's over a non-disclosure agreement that HEI wishes for us to sign, and we're not in principle opposed to such agreements. We want to get back to the table with all the parties to make this happen. So we've invited them to come back to the table. They've refused. You're going to hear from workers at the Pullman who are going to describe that and what's happened there. CBRE has a lot of control over what happens next. They hired HEI. If they're serious about settling, they should be able to direct their operator to come back to the table and negotiate this deal. I'm hopeful we can avoid a long and bitter labor dispute. So I'm here to ask you, trustees and staff, to make one more concerted effort to get CBRE to bring its operator to the table to get this done. An agreement on labor peace now is in everyone's interest. So thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Mitra Ellie. As you know, I've worked as a phone operator for the last 4.5 years at Pullman. The last time I came here, I felt like we were on the verge of a breakthrough. After almost a year of ignoring our concerns, we heard that CBRE was finally talking to the union. In fact, when we were driving here in May, we were thinking that any minute we would just turn around and go back home because the company was about to sign the agreement. Then we learned that CBRE actually signed the agreement to let us have the fair and neutral election. We thought we were done. We thought we won. However, the situation at Pullman has only gotten worse since then. It feels like managers were suddenly given the okay to come down even harder on us, on the union leaders in the hotel. It feels like there was a complete turnaround. We learned that the hotel management had still not signed the same agreement that the owners thought was best for the hotel. So over 30 of us went to go speak directly with the general manager. The day after that, I learned that the director of operations had gone above the head of my direct manager and changed the schedule of the 3 people from my department that were present at that meeting. I have consistently had weekends off for the last 2 years, and suddenly I'm working at 5 a.m. every Saturday and Sunday, ever since that meeting. My coworker was told to come in 5 hours later than his normal schedule, and my other coworker had her days off changed as well. In addition, the managers have called the police 3 times in the last 3 weeks on us to stop the union organizers from speaking to us. I should not have to worry about walking past the police on my way out of work. It's no crime to ask for a job that lets me work in peace. Looking back on the last 2 months, I see what really happened. It seems that even though CBRE owns the hotel, they've stepped back and let management retaliate against us, turn our lives upside down, and run anti-union campaign against us instead of being neutral. We are now in a position where we feel like we have to fight even harder than before. We're standing up for ourselves. We're not going anywhere until we get the democratic process that we deserve. Will you please ask CBRE to step in and make sure hotel management implements the same agreement that they already signed? Thank you.
Just my staff. Aquí párense conmigo. Somos del hotel. Hello, my name is Juan Chavez, and I've been working in shipping and receiving at the Pullman Hotel for 4 years. I was happy when I heard that the owners of the hotel signed an agreement with the union. I thought all of our efforts have paid off, but they didn't. Things at the hotel have gotten worse. We're seeing how bad management can be. Like Mitra said, we went to go talk to the general manager after we heard that the manager's company had not signed the agreement. Our hotel has an open door policy to address issues. The GM always says that we should go to him if we have any concerns or worries. That was one of them. The manager made us wait a long time to talk to him. When he finally came to talk to us, treated it like a joke. I felt like he was making fun of us. like we didn't know what we were doing. The worst part was the next day. He started telling the coworkers that he was going to deduct money from their paychecks because we went to go talk to him. He deducted 40 minutes from a dozen of my coworkers. Everyone had finished work that day, went upstairs to go clean all their rooms before they left. I didn't see a single person who took a rest break that day because they wanted to finish their work. The company decided they had the right to steal money from workers' paychecks. Our only choice was to fill out a complaint. 7 of my coworkers filed wage claims with the California Department of Labor Standards. The way things are going, it's getting bad. We have no choice. We can't stop, and we won't stop fighting for our livelihoods. I'm here because the hotel doesn't listen to me. Hopefully they'll listen to you. Thank you, guys.
Hello, thank you. My name is Barbara Martinez, and I am a public elementary school teacher here in Sacramento. This is going to be my 13th year in the classroom, and I passionately love my job. I love working with the students that I serve. I work at a Title I school, and I'm sure that all of you know that that means that, you know, my students come from working families. Being a teacher myself, I know how valuable and critical labor representation is, so that I have a voice to speak up confidently for my students and be an advocate. I feel extremely proud to be part of CalSTRS and have you representing me in my retirement. I depend upon it, all of my colleagues do. And I'm extremely proud that you have these ESG principles that you are implementing in your investments. It makes me feel that we are all part of the same team. And when I hear of what is going on at the Pullman Hotel, it stirs things in me. I really feel that we need to stand up and support workers in any capacity. And these people have been fighting for the right to organize and be recognized. And it is a management company that is standing in the way. And I know that we can come to an agreement, and I urge you to take the opportunity to try to work, to collaborate, to have the parties come back to the table and support these Pullman workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think the next group of speakers are here to speak on the private prisons. So we're going to go through the list and remind everyone of the comments made by our Chief Investment Officer. He is initiating a process that we have to review and potentially pursue a divestment from these private prisons. But we have a process in our policy manual which we will be following, and I know our fiduciary counsel will weigh in when it's appropriate on the matter. But for today's purposes, we'll hear your comments. We know what the concerns are. Our staff is actively involved with this issue. So we will hear your comments. We welcome them. So why don't we start with Miriam Martin, Jessica Smith, Michelle, and Adrian. If you could get to the microphone.
Is this okay?
Oh, yeah,
This mic?
sure.
Yeah? Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Miriam Martin, and you, I think, received a letter I sent this morning that was signed by 341 CalSTRS members all over the state of California, representing over 12 unions. I am a teacher. I've been a CalSTRS member for 15 years. I'm also the daughter of an immigrant, and like many immigrants who you see on today's news, my mother came here fleeing persecution in Latin America. Unlike those immigrants, she was welcomed. She was able to become a citizen, become a teacher. Her sister became a teacher, and her 2 children did as well. We've put collectively decades into California, into raising up diverse communities, making them healthy, safe, and sane, contributing our love, our weekends, our summers, our sleepless nights. And we didn't do that to profit off of the criminalization of migration and the locking up of kids of color. We're here to serve diverse communities, not profit from them. The 2016 CalSTRS Materiality Survey ranked ethics and compliance as a top issue, and I'm here to tell you that they are indeed important to your members. I am asking you to divest, not just engage, but divest, because for-profit prisons are irredeemably unethical. There is no way to salvage this situation. There is nothing you can do that will make locking up refugees indefinitely and locking up kids of color okay. There's no way to salvage that. It's trash. Between 2008 and 2014, CoreCivic spent almost $10 million lobbying members of the House Appropriations Homeland Security Subcommittee for immigration detention privileges, and they've received that. They now house 75% of immigrant detainees. I'm almost done. I know that there's time. The school-to-prison pipeline is a justice system that is increasingly privatized. In 2014, 70,000 students were arrested at school. 70% of them were Black or Latino. Those are the students we serve. Divestiture is gaining momentum. City of Philadelphia, City of New York, UC Regents, everybody is realizing that there is no way to make this okay. I ask you to follow suit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So Jessica, come on. Come on up. Can we just do it all a big clap at the end? We can do it together. Then we can get through the meeting faster. We'll do it all together. I'll join you in the clap. But let's do it all at the end. Jessica.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Smith, and I teach 4th grade in San Jose at a Title I school. I'm here as a union rep for the Moreland Teachers Association to speak on behalf of concerned members. I want to start by saying that I really appreciate what you guys do for California teachers. You've chosen a job with really great responsibility to ensure our financial future. We too have chosen a job with great responsibility to ensure the future of our students. I'll kind of skip this part. We talked a lot about CoreCivic and the GEO Group. As investors in these businesses, your initial reaction to their successes may be positive, but their successes means that more money for our retirement is coming from children being detained in these prisons. There are growing accusations of abuse and neglect coming out of these detention centers, and they're causing permanent developmental issues in the children that they're housing. These prisons are what we as educators are fighting against every day in our classrooms, as we try to give our students the academic tools and the social skills necessary to become caring and productive members of our society and to keep themselves out of prison. Every day, I go to work with love in my heart and a smile on my face, no matter what my own worries are I may have in my own life, because my students always come first. And this is one of those moments where I want to put them before myself. So we urge you to divest. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you. Michelle and Adrian.
Not quite that short. Hello, my name is Michelle Redfoot. I am a teacher in Pittsburgh, and I am the VP of our Pittsburgh Education Association.
Eric Hines.
Yes, Eric Hines. I appreciate the complex and hard work that you do, and I appreciate that you're beginning a process. But a process is not a definitive action. And while you sit and talk today about ensuring the investment groups that you work with have equity amongst their staff, we need to make sure that you are not ignoring human rights. We teachers choose to be educators because we believe every child has the right to a bright future. They can have a bright future, and they will have a bright future. We teach more than the Common Core. We teach life skills. We teach respect and responsibility. We teach kindness and fairness. CalSTR's investment in private for-profit prisons, detention centers, and various facilities that may be involved in this latest human rights fiasco is antithetical to everything that we fight for and work for every single day for our students. I'm guilty of assuming that my money as a member was being utilized and invested in a way that follows everything I work for every single day. I am guilty of being irresponsible in that way, and I will not be irresponsible in that way again. And I will make sure my members are not irresponsible in that way. We are demanding that you ensure the groups that you invest with reflect us and not just the fiscal responsibility you have to us as contributing members, because no amount of money is worth throwing away and trotting on what is right and what is just. We are demanding that you divest. Thank you.
Adrian?
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, my name's Adrian Frisbee. I'm a teacher at both De Anza and West Valley Community Colleges in the Bay Area. I'm here to discuss the CalSTR's for-profit prisons, the investment in the for-profit prisons run by CoreCivic and GEO Group, and their usage in these immigration detention centers and the school-to-prison pipeline. The for-profit business model for these prisons involves building prisons and securing government contracts to fill them. Recently, Trump's executive order does just this, as it allows for detention of families in for-profit prisons. For-profit prisons, including CoreCivic, have faced public scrutiny for human rights abuses. According to the ACLU, last year, the Justice Department's Inspector General found that private prisons with federal contracts delivered deficient medical care, had higher levels of violence than federal prisons, had higher incidences of sexual and physical assault, and misused solitary confinement as overflow space. CalSTR's investment policy consists of 21 risk factors, including respect for human rights and respect for civil liberties. CalSTR's policy is engagement, not divestment. Touring facilities isn't sufficient engagement. I'm grateful that you all are initiating the review process, but divestment is engagement. It's the most powerful form of engagement that we can participate in. We need to send a clear and immediate message to CoreCivic and GEO Group that California teachers do not support long-term detention of families and an ongoing history of human rights abuses. Our job as educators is to educate, not incarcerate. Not one dime should be going towards these private prisons. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Linda, Linda, and I think it's Marsha? Linda? Linda Judah. Is Linda still here? No? Okay, so we'll go right to Marsha Albrecht.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marsha Albrecht. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a math teacher at Berkeley High School. And I wrote this letter on July 2nd and opened it up to my site if people wanted to sign. And about 100 signatures collected from various members of the Berkeley Unified School District. I'm going to read the letter here. Dear CalSTRs and CalPERS executive officers and board members, we, the undersigned, recently learned that CalSTRs and CalPERS have invested $126 million and $193 million, respectively, of our retirement money in these companies, GEO Group, CoreCivic, and General Dynamics. These companies profit directly from detaining immigrant families and children. As educators in California, we are legally responsible for the safety, care, intellectual growth, and nurturing of the children of our state. We are horrified to learn that our own government has removed children from their families and placed them in incarceration facilities run at least in part by the companies listed above. This treatment of children goes in opposition to everything we do professionally and is a violation of basic human rights. Also, as educators in California, we regularly entrust part of our hard-earned paycheck to you for safekeeping until we retire. This agreement is meant to ensure that we can retire with some security and dignity after our years of service nurturing and educating children. We demand immediate and complete divestment of our retirement funds from GEO Group, Core Civic, and General Dynamics. We do not want our pension money invested in for-profit prison companies. Move our money now. And then 100 names follow. So.
Thank you. Is that, did we get a copy of that?
We did get one.
Thank you. Would you give it to someone in the front there? Jonas? Jonas, Adriana Betty, and Alex Day.
My name is Jonas Lemaitre Brownell. I'm a member of Berkeley Federation of Teachers as Berkeley Unified's Herrick Hospital teacher, teaching psychiatric hospitalized adolescents in grades 6 through 12, ages 12 to 18. My ancestors came to this continent as Scottish settler colonizers to New England in the 1600s, and as French, German, Irish, and Hungarian immigrants to the US South and Midwest early in the 20th century. I live and teach on land claimed as US through genocide, slavery, and military invasion, certainly including here in California, one of whose legislature's first acts legalized enslavement of indigenous peoples, including indigenous children who lost their parents through the cataclysm of European American settlers and ranchers and state death squads' murders of indigenous persons and whole villages. I also live and teach today in a land of mass incarceration, the new Jim Crow, heir to the old Jim Crow, heir to our country's enslavement of African Americans. Our country's system of mass incarceration today dwarfs other prison gulags in broad suffering and blatant classism and racism, with private prisons as mass incarceration's cruelest vanguard. From labor standards to prisoners' health and mortality to corruption, non-existent oversight, and deadly patterns of abuse and discrimination, the worst of mass incarceration is the private prison industry, whose mission is to lock up ever more people for any reason, putting ever less resources into running each prison so as to continually maximize profit for the prison's owners and shareholders. The for-profit prison industry has been such a failure as any kind of humane institution that our just previous US President, Mr. Obama, bowed to the pressure of millions in 2016 and decided to end federal private prisons. But Trump brought them back. Now with Trump's zero-tolerance policy at the US-Mexico border, we see where the union of for-profit incarceration, nationalist white supremacy, and demonizing the non-white other, who here are desperate Latinx families and others and their children in need. We see where this leads. Divest now.
Thank you. Adriana? Adriana still here?
Yate. My name is Adriana. I'm of the Chiricahua Nation. I am a graduate of Cosumnes River College, UC Berkeley, Math and Computer Science, and the University of Massachusetts, Math Science Technology Ed. I first came into the system as an instructional aide for the math and science labs at Sacramento City College, and later the first woman in the computer science labs at Sacramento City College. And that's how I entered the PERS system. Later, I moved to the Bay Area and became a math teacher in the Bay Area and also a math teacher trainer for the University of Berkeley, where I started garnering CallSTRS. I'm here today to talk about these investments of my retirement funds, and I do plan on retiring hopefully soon. I'm getting up there in age, so I want to work this out. I do want to speak about this investment, and it's to us, it's not the size of your staff. It's not. It's not. You know, the staff that matters. What matters to us is the moral lens that you're using to look at our investments. As a woman of Native descent, many of my family members and my friends throughout California or the United States and Canada are survivors, and some of us, unfortunately, not are survivors of the residential and boarding schools. Right now, with these detention centers going on, it is a huge impact on our mental state, reliving the trauma that was caused and still is in our system. In June, I was on the Cumbres in Southern California for the World Prayer and Peace Gathering. And at that time, we found out 17 young girls were brought into the detention center in El Cajon. So the Native women got together, knowing that many of these children are fleeing wars that are supported by the US government in Central America. Many of these children coming, their first languages are not English and Spanish. And so a lot of these children, they're seeking right now translators to talk to these children. So the women gathered as many indigenous languages as we possibly can. And we went to that detention center and we sang lullabies in all of these languages, hoping that these young children would hear that. So I do want to ask CalSTRS, not only for this investment, but for all investment. I want to ask for a moral lens, and I want to ask for transparency.
Thank you. Alex Day.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Day. I teach at Berkeley High School. Some of my colleagues are here. A lot has been said already, not too much to add. What I was sitting here thinking about while I was listening to Mr. Ailman speak about the process, a couple things come to mind. I'm not a huge truster in long bureaucratic processes. No offense to the bureaucrats in the room. But if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. I would just say to make sure to have all the different criteria and all the different ways that the private prison companies, Geo Group, CoreCivic, General Dynamic, and even United Rentals thrown in there, though they're not private prisons, they are involved in at least the family separation. But I brought my sign up with me for this because I feel like at each level, either whether it's family separation, whether it's immigration detention, or whether it's mass incarceration, that at least Geo Group, CoreCivic, and General Dynamic fail your own human rights policies on each of these levels, right? So I've seen some initial correspondence from CalSTRS saying, hey, we talked to these companies, they're trying to say that they're not involved in family separation or it might be marginal. We could argue that, and I would push back on that assertion. However, just taken at face value, immigration detention alone is violating human rights of political asylum seekers. As soon as you pass a credible fear test, domestic and international refugee law that we have signed on to says if you have arrived here and passed a credible fear test, then, and if you have someone either direct or indirect in the United States, you must and should be paroled to that person while your political asylum claim goes through, right? So just on that basis alone, those companies are, I know they're not setting the policy, but they're implementing a policy that is in violation of domestic and international refugee law. And then also, let's get down to mass incarceration, which we should have been talking about this from the get-go, right? I mean, the percentage of prisoners held by CoreCivic and Geo Group and General Dynamics are lower in general population, whether state or federal prisons, than immigration detention. But still, right, the practice of solitary confinement alone has been deemed to be torture, right? So even if we just want to stick with mass incarceration, even if we just want to stick with solitary confinement, all three of those companies, CoreCivic, Geo Group, and General Dynamics, are violating international human rights law.
Thanks. Josh? Josh Austin? Okay, Sam Frankel. Thank you, sir. Ms. Van Surfrey Williams, United Educators of San Francisco?
Yeah, Cedric.
Vance, is it Vance?
Van Cedric.
Yeah, Van Cedric. Come on up to the microphone, Van Cedric. United Educators of San Francisco.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
First and foremost, I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate that you'll give us an opportunity to speak. I'm Van Cedric from United Educators. I'm actually a treasurer of the USF. I've taught in San Francisco 17 years. I'm a history teacher. And so, you know, the best thing about history is there's so many narratives and stories in history. And I use that to really try to have my kids understand the greatness of America, you know. And I'll use these two examples that we all know. Declaration of Independence, right? All men are created equal, right? And our job is, you know, for the equal creator, certain unalienable rights, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, these things should really matter to us because this is what makes us who we are. And when we start to have, we see on the news and we hear these experiences that we have individuals coming to our country to participate, to pursue these particular values. My question to you is, do we still hold those values? My second is the Statue of Liberty, the symbol of hope and freedom. Bring me your teeming masses, bring me your tired, bring me your poor, right? These are the things that make us American. That's what we believe in. That's why I love this country. But yet we have in these discussions that we're choosing money over humans. I know you work really hard at your job, and I'm not going to sit here and knock you. It's a hard job. You make great decisions. I believe in your decisions. Thank you for keeping our pension going for the next few years. I really want to say that. But I also want to just make sure that we don't forget what makes us American, what connects us all, what we all believe in. And so please keep that in mind as you're making decisions for the future. Please understand that individuals, families who are coming here want to be a part of this. We do have to figure out the process, but let's not dehumanize them. Let's not split them up from their parents. Let's not put them in cages. Let's not detain them and go down that rabbit hole that we went through before with internment camps. Let's stay away from that. Let's stand for what makes us great. Let's stand for our human values, Statue of Liberty, and the Declaration of Independence. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Doug? Doug Orr? That's you, Doug, yeah.
Hi, I'm Doug Orr, the chair of the CFT Retirement Policy Committee. I've been revising my statement. I think this is about the 7th or 8th time as I've been listening to things. So the first thing I want to do is to commend CalSTRS staff for listening to stakeholders so clearly. You've already started the process that we have asked you to start, and we've only asked you 2 weeks ago. That's pretty amazing. I also fully believe that by the time you've worked through that process of looking at whether you should divest or not divest, most likely going to make the decision to divest. But as we saw with, once you make the decision to divest from guns, it took a while. You can't just turn on a dime. That's impossible. So we have sort of a two-pronged problem here. Trump's policy of separating immigrant families and locking them up would not be possible without these private prisons. They don't have any other places to put them. And so before we get to the process of divesting, I think the immediate thing to do would be to engage with these companies and try to build a coalition with other institutional investors, other public sector pension funds around the country, to force these companies to end all of their contracts with ICE. Because if the Trump administration did not have all of these private prisons to stockpile these immigrants, they would have to back off on their zero tolerance policy. So I think I commend you for looking at the idea of divesting, and I really think you're going to ultimately do that. But I think the immediate thing to do is to try to end all of these contracts with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Tristan Brown. Tristan Brown. Tristan Brown still here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Tristan Brown with the California Federation of Teachers. Obviously, we've heard a lot of voices today and a lot of emotion that's behind this issue. I know of many members who have personally come to me and told me about the impact that what we've been seeing in the news lately, what we've been seeing in our communities lately, has had a detrimental effect in the classroom. That students aren't always coming to class. They don't know if their parents will be home by the time they're going to return home. It's very disruptive to the educational process. And so this has fueled a lot of attention from our stakeholders into this issue. And we'd like to thank you for taking these first steps in investigating our relationship with these companies and the impact that that's having on our immigration policy nationally. We are submitting a letter, the California Federation of Teachers is submitting a letter to you very soon requesting much of what Doug has just covered, that we look into these companies and use our leverage to engage them to end their relationship with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. We'd also like to continue our research into this fund and others that we have relationships with to see just how far our relationship is with these corporations and others that might also be engaging in this kind of activity. And we do this as a way to stop some of this bleeding that we're seeing in the treatment of human beings on our borders, and also in the general context of how our relationship with private prisons is. But that there's this immediate need, so we thank you for the brief report today on taking steps to do that. We look forward to what comes out in September. We'd also like to echo some of the questions that you'll find in the letter from the California Teachers Association that we believe are very poignant into finding out just really what the relationship is and how we can improve this. So thank you very much. We'll happy to work with you in the future to rectify the situation.
Thank you. Tom Blanks, and then Jennifer Baker. Tom from Mount Diablo. Tom.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Tom Blanks, and for 41 years I taught in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. I actually knew in second grade, I grew up in California, that I wanted to be a school teacher, and I quickly learned as I supported my students that included in supporting their families, supporting our communities. And Maslow, you probably remember, talks about hierarchy of needs. Until you've got certain needs met, you can't deal with the things that we teach officially in school, but then how we live is part of what we teach our students. So I just want to say that I concur with the CTA staff. You've gotten one of these letters, I'm sure. So CTA and your group, and I appreciate the leadership that both CTA and Cal STRS is providing in this process so that you can acquire this information, so you can share this information with other retirement groups and other groups who are similarly concerned, so that they can build their basis for why they oppose the private prison system, including how it's being implemented for the detention of people who came here, as my colleagues have already said, looking for that life that we promised. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer? Hi,
Good
Jennifer.
afternoon, Jennifer Baker with the California Teachers Association. It's unfortunate that we're all having to have this conversation today, but we are living in a moment in time. And so we are very much encouraged by the conversations that Chris and your team are going to have in regard to this subject, and do encourage a speedy investigation. We have provided you a very comprehensive list of questions that we would encourage you to use in regard to this engagement process. Our questions are based in case law. And so if the companies have informed you that they're following the law, we say prove it. Our members, as well as our board, have spoken very loudly in regard to private prisons, that we do believe that the private prison industry is profiting off of incarceration of the very children that our members are educating. And so we already knew this is a complicated process and had been communicating that to try to find out a long-term direction for you and for our members' retirement security. And then unfortunately to find out these most recent issues that have been happening and the unfortunate and inhumane treatment of individuals that are coming into our country, many legally for asylum and for help. And we encourage you to investigate what has happened and to do your due diligence and following the investment beliefs that you have put together. We try to provide due diligence through a comprehensive set of questions to assist you because we know that you're not immigration experts. We're happy to provide assistance in this regard if it would help you and your team to gather information quickly so that you can make a decision. We're hoping at the next board meeting. We believe in the process you put together and believe that you're going to do the due diligence to see that our members' retirement fund is secure, but that we also do it in a way that is in accordance with your investment beliefs.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, I want to identify Geraldine. I don't know if Grant, Sarah's in the room. There are other staff members who work with stakeholders. Please work through our staff who will then keep us appropriately updated on activities that are taking place, on the matters that have been brought before us today. I'm sure we all want to say something and participate in the dialogue and conversation. We're simply not going to do that at this meeting at this time. We've heard your concerns. Our staff will be working with you on that. There's a letter that's been signed by over 300 members of the system. If someone in the audience can be the key contact person for this group, if you could let Geraldine know who you are, get that contact information. Okay, so just that happens. Thank you, everyone. We are going to break for lunch. It's 20 after 1, and we'll come back at 10 minutes to 2. Why don't we go to 2 o'clock? We'll go to 2 o'clock, and then we're going right to closed session. Yeah, so we're adjourned from public session. Thank you, everyone.
Public session's done, though, right?
Public session's done, yeah.